All right, so Bob Iger, who is the CEO of Disney currently right now, he took over again for Bob Chapek. So Bob Chapek replaced him, then he replaced Bob Chapek again. So it's kind of there. So he's back again. And he says that here, this is a news story via Variety. He says Marvel diluted audiences' focus and attention by making so many Disney Plus TV shows, says Bob Iger. The quote for him says, "There's been some disappointments. We have liked some of our recent releases to perform. We would have liked some of our more recent releases to perform better." Iger said it's reflective, not as a problem from our personal perspective, but I think in our zeal to basically grow our content significantly to serve mostly our streaming offerings, we ended up taxing our people way behind in terms of their time and their focus and way beyond where they had been. I know Nathan has recently, he's talked about a lot of the Disney Plus shows and a lot of people talking about that and how he also feels like it's lost, like it's just so much content for people to consume. Before it was just the movies. Now you have to watch this 8-episode Disney Plus series to catch up on what's going on in this movie now. So it's all this different content. That was the thing with like WandaVision, for example. Where there was that, like, you basically almost had to see WandaVision in order to really fully understand Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. But
they don't do that much to push anything forward in their own plot. They're essential to watch to understand the movies, but they're also kind of inessential in the fact that they're not enjoyable hangs.
Yeah. Which I know you're really not liking Secret Invasion right now. I've only seen the first 2 episodes of the show. And then apparently Secret Invasion, I was reading that it has a budget of over $200 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Talk about a juiceless show. There's just nothing there. It's one of those that on paper, you got a show with Sam Jackson, Ben Mendelsohn, Don Cheadle, Olivia Colman, what's her face from Game of Thrones? Amelia Clark. It's a paranoid spy thriller with aliens involved, with Sam Jackson returning to Marvel as Nick Fury after not really being in a movie in any large capacity since Captain Marvel, which was kind of like a C-grade movie that it hinges a lot on. It's a bad show. We don't need to deliberate Secret Invasion.
It's like $30 million an episode.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
His further quote, he says, Marvel's a great example of that. Iger added, they had not been in the TV business at any significant level. Not only did they increase their movie output, but they ended up making a number of television series. And frankly, it diluted focus and attention. That is, I think, more of the cause than anything. And then also addressing the poor box office performance of Pixar's Elemental, which actually Elemental is actually kind of picking up a little bit of more steam. Actually.
Yeah, it is. It's becoming... because it was not dropped on Disney Plus, people are like, "Oh, I guess there is a movie for kids to see." They've already inspired. Let's take them to Pixar's Jungle Fever.
Guess we'll have to go to the theaters to see the Pixar movie then. And then they went.
You said Pixar's Jungle Fever.
Yeah.
So it says addressing the poor box office performance of Pixar's Elemental. Iger cited the studio's decision to put 3 Pixar movies on Disney Plus in a row during the pandemic. Soul, Luca, and Turning Red all skipped theaters and went straight to streaming. Lightyear and Elemental, the 2 Pixar films that exclusively opened in theaters, afterwards flopped. Well, I wouldn't say, I don't know. I don't think you can say that Elemental's a flop as of yet. I mean, I think it's picking up, like I said, picking up some steam, making some more money. Lightyear definitely was a disappointment. I think looking at that, what they wanted.
It's kind of just picking up scraps, I think, is the thing with Elemental.
Yeah.
Well, Elemental is doing, other than Spider-Verse, it's doing so much better than I could name the animated films in theaters for both of you. You'd be like, what the hell is that? There's like this DreamWorks picture called Ruby something, the Teenage Kraken.
Ruby Kraken.
And it's made like $20 or something. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen marketing for it. I'm sure it's a fine movie, to say the least. DreamWorks doesn't really put out terrible stuff. I don't think so.
They're just really not marketing.
It's been a weird summer for,
outside
Is it
of
because
Super
kids
Mario.
don't watch commercials? Like, where would kids watch a commercial now that I think of it?
Yeah,
I
I don't know.
mean,
Maybe on their if they don't have ad blocker on YouTube, maybe I don't know. They don't have that, but most people have ad blocker there.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
yeah, I
Uh,
mean, Elemental. Just personally, I didn't go see it because it looked like shit on on the ads. It's just like talk about the most generic looking Pixar film where it's like we're going to handle the topic of interracial relationship through fire and water because we need this to be a metaphor for it. And I'm just like, actually something more
They did
transgressive would be if you just portrayed an interracial relationship.
fire and water create steam. It's a sex joke.
Yeah.
mm.
Uh, yeah.
To get into his comments here, so I do agree with him to a point. I mean, this is what a lot of people have been saying in general about a lot of this content. It's like it's just too much. It's too many shows. It's too many movies. They said this. People have been saying this with Marvel. People have been saying this with Star Wars, and you're not taking time to really. It feels like it's like a machine. It's a product. You're just pumping this stuff out without any real care or attention to what you're putting out. And this could be good, like I thought it was hugely disappointing with Kenobi, where I felt like, Kenobi is one of my favorite Star Wars characters. You could have a great stuff here going on, but it felt so rushed and so cheap in the way they kind of did things as compared to something like, but you'll get something I think that is really good, like Andor. I really enjoyed Andor a lot. And I loved Andor and I love what they did with that. Even some of the Marvel Disney Plus shows, like when they first started, I liked Loki. I thought Loki was pretty good. I thought WandaVision was pretty good. But what happens usually with all these Disney Plus series, what's always the major failing with them, is that the endings, they always end terribly because they feel always rushed and kind of slapped together. And that is a lot due to, I mean, some of it was because of COVID and they had to change all that stuff. So that was a lot of it too. There, but it feels like you're not giving these stories enough time to breathe. You're not just putting a lot of attention to it. So yeah, I mean, I think it would greatly help if you reduce the amount of content you're pumping out, and then to try to just service the streaming platform that you have, which he basically says here. It's a lot of it was in service to Disney Plus, about building this platform, making people to subscribe to Disney Plus, because that's the new big thing. Everybody has a streaming service: Amazon, Netflix, Paramount Plus, Apple Plus. You know what I mean? All these kind of places have streaming services now. So it's about competing. And like, that's the new game, even though it seems like this is kind of a losing game because, I mean, how much of these streaming services, you always hear about Netflix being in hundreds and hundreds of $1 million in debt. What kind of profit are they making, in these streaming services? Get your kind of opinion on that. Bradley, if you want to kind of chime in on that, or Nathan, you want to kind of chime in on that. There's some thinking there.
You can take it, Bradley.
Yeah, my headset is always hearing Bob Iger and just the Disney CEO since I was a kid. Age of Ultron had leaked emails that had the phrases like $1.4 billion, disappointing. And I'm so tired of billionaires telling me that they're not rich enough. Like, come on, Iger. These aren't like complete flops. They're still making profit. I don't want to hear about how it's not enough profit. Like, boo frickin' who? And they should be cheaper. This is me not knowing any of their profit margins. Hearing that Secret Invasion costs that much. I don't need to know about success or failings. That's too much for a TV show. A 6-episode TV show. Samuel L. Jackson deserves his paycheck. I'm not going to say he doesn't. But, oh my gosh. You could have a man with his talents talking to one other person in a room about the importance of or the dangers of paranoia in our political climate, and I think that would sell. Why is so much money being flushed down the toilet for these things?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think they need to stop doing the finales of their show like a commercial for the next thing. Finish your show off proper. Don't make it a set piece for the next thing that we're all supposed to watch.
And an action figure showcase, because I feel like they've almost always ended on the hero getting the more comic book accurate outfit.
Oh, you think it's for an action figure and not for like a story element?
I mean,
I'm not going to say you're wrong.
in Falcon and
That's
the Winter Soldier, 100%. I was like, that is a story element, you know.
I don't think a lot of people liked his outfit though, so that'll probably change for the next Cap movie.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to my friend Keyshawn, who is now going to play Sam Wilson in a Disney cruise coming up.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome. I like the outfit. I don't know.
I think it's good.
I kind of struggle to believe that Wakanda made that outfit personally, but that's just me.
No.
I just think they generally have better styling. I mean, did you see how they arrived to Tony Stark's funeral?
Yeah.
They were dripped out to the nines.
Yeah. What do you think, Nathan, about all this?
Yeah.
I mean, I said it in a post. Bob Iger is both arsonist and fireman. He greenlit all these shows, and now that he has come back to Disney Plus, he is, saying, "Oh my God, I cannot believe that this got so out of hand." Blah blah blah. Who was the guy who did this? And Bob Chapek kind of ran the studio into the ground for a while by successfully creating these TV shows, both Star Wars and Marvel, that truthfully have not been it. Like, they just haven't been it. And it's a big thing because they're all essential homework pieces. I mean, one of the biggest movies of last year, but not the biggest movie of last year, was Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which is more of a sequel to WandaVision than it is to the first Doctor Strange. And people didn't like how it was a sequel to WandaVision. Loki was fresh and interesting and new. Andor is fresh and interesting and new. And that's really cool that they managed to be a tonic in the desert of all these mid shows. These shows that just start off and almost immediately become, they start off interesting, then they become like second screen viewing. Miss Marvel, a show I liked quite a bit, kind of lost itself in the midst of its villains and everything. I mean, even as far as spending, do we really need to pay, or do they really have to pay over $500 million for Harrison Ford to come back as Indiana Jones for his third conclusive entry, and for everybody to be like, yeah, that's fine? Like, who's this all for at this point? It's not for general public. It's not for audiences the same way that Force Awakens was, or even Infinity War. I think you could very easily track what's going on. And they used to make films that would encourage audiences to want to engage with them. And now they have only become concerned with the people who are in the bubble of the massive audience they cultivated. And we're now at this point where fans of Marvel, fans of Star Wars, either will blindly eat whatever Marvel gives them or whatever Disney gives them, or they kind of feel a lot of resentment. I know I'm of that majority for how much they're being pandered to, and feel that the storytelling is kind of adrift in service of making as much content as possible and bringing people onto streaming services, and sadly wasting a lot of our great talent, both behind the camera and in front of it.
Yeah. So to address things that Bradley said, Nathan said, so what Bradley said made a good point of like billionaires complaining about being billionaires, about being rich and things not making enough profit. And a lot of times I'll cover this more in depth when I go over the writer strike and the actor strike. A lot of times they try to, flake those numbers to try to not pay people what they're worth. Right. They try to say, like, I remember, Nathan, you told me a story about this guy. Who was the person he said that was the writer that was trying to sue? It was Men in Black, right?
Yeah, Men in Black. Ed Solomon was told that Men in Black never turned a profit.
Yeah, he was trying to be convinced that, and so he had to take them to court to say. And then Men in Black made what, 4 movies? 4 movies, and an animated show
that doesn't exist.
That animated show is great, by the way. I was like peak age to watch that, and I thought it was wonderful.
Well, it's actually, just to sort of piggyback on what you're saying, that was one of the most interesting things about the whole The Rock's hierarchy of power with Black Adam, where he released documents that proved that there's so much shady stuff to where a movie can't be that big and actually be a failure. Like, so much, you can label it as a failure like Black Adam, but a lot of the budget is dedicated to, all right, so we need to give at least $200 million in ad revenue. We're going to pay the billboard company that we own, and we're going to pay the streaming company that we own, and we're going to pay the poster company that we also own. It's a lot of people paying themselves and then saying they didn't make enough money.
Wow.
Yeah,
because they didn't make more than what they paid themselves.
Yeah. So a lot of that time, that's a lot of shaky when they say something's a complete failure and everything. And also, it's just all this money that's being put, like, having a budget of Indiana Jones that's over $300 million. Like, why do you need a budget that's that big for Indiana Jones?
The 12th highest or the 12th most expensive movie ever made.
I mean, Harrison Ford can barely walk right now.
As evident when you watch Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Because that's what happens when you turn into an 80-year-old man. Like, no shade on Harrison Ford. I think he's a brilliant actor, but how... I'll stop. Sorry. That's a lot of money to give to someone who literally, his doctor would say, don't make him run, he'll break his leg, which he did in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, maybe that was where all the money went. Keeping doctors on standby, just throwing out the entire film, just keeping them on standby, waiting, in the ambulance, just something in case something happens,
I think they all went to Harrison Ford flying jets. I also think that they thought that this was going to be the Force Awakens effect. If we brought Harrison Ford back for, you can't even call it a legacy sequel. It's not a legacy sequel. He's not passing the torch to Phoebe Waller-Bridge. It's just a sequel. And there's no real point for its existence. It's, I was talking to my buddy Frank as we were getting out of that movie, and it was, it's kind of strange that Top Gun Maverick is more about the aging of Tom Cruise than Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is about the aging of Harrison Ford.
And I want to get you guys' opinion on a quote. So this was Steven Spielberg. This was from a Hollywood Reporter. People were pulling this back up. I don't know if you guys seen this, but he gave an interview with Hollywood Reporter back in 2013. And he said that he was talking about the danger of all these kind of big budgets and that Hollywood's eventually going to implode on itself. So he says that's the big danger. And there's eventually going to be an implosion or big meltdown. There's going to be an implosion where there are 3 or 4 or maybe even half a dozen mega budget movies are going to crash, are going to go crashing into the ground. And that's going to change the kind of paradigm of things. What do you all kind of think about that? Like, is that kind of what we're seeing here? Like Fast X, The Flash, Indiana Jones. What else would be classified as like a major failure with that's kind of going on?
Shazam was one, but that had a lower budget. Not a lower one than the first one. We have yet to see how Dead Reckoning does as much as we were singing its praising. That movie has a massive budget. A lot of this is because of COVID. But also there's a world where every single one of those movies makes its money back. There's a world where these things look better. And an Indiana Jones movie shouldn't be kind of sigh, I'll wait for it to be on Disney Plus. It's Indiana fucking Jones. There's Michael Keaton returned as Batman and nobody went to go see it, Batman,
which shocked me. Like, I'm on record of being shocked that
I was
Michael
shocked
Keaton
too.
Nostalgia didn't budge the needle at all.
I was kind of shocked because I had already preemptively was like, all right, so y'all skip on Shazam 2, yet you got a virtue signal about Ezra Miller, huh? Just wait till The Flash outgrows the Shazam 2, and I will say I am eating crow on top of chili right now because that I saw The Flash with an audience that cheered and everything, and I liked it fine. I liked it quite a bit, actually. But yeah, I think we're at this point where we're making these very expensive products that have to are hermetically sealed sets that occasionally look at, and we're basically not giving the amount of time to really make these things look great. And they've kind of lost the audience for who want, they've lost the audience that want to see it. Sadly, I don't know if it's a COVID thing. I don't think we really have fan bases driving the box office anymore. I think you can be a fan of Andor, but not be beholden to go to every Star Wars thing, or a fan of A New Hope, or you can be a fan of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Doesn't mean you're going to see every Indiana Jones thing. You can be a fan of Michael Keaton's Batman. Doesn't mean you're going to go see The Flash. It's we're in this point where you really do have to wow audiences, because all we get are movies about intellectual property. And sadly, that's the only way you can get in the door. And not everybody who gets in the door is actually going to make it to the top floor anymore.
Yeah. So
I think it's just the summer is overstuffed. It is a completely insanely overstuffed summer with movies. Like it sounded like what Spielberg was alluding to in 2013. Guys, Mission Impossible is already going to be bumped off by Oppenheimer and Barbie having a pissing contest next week. Is it
I'm
really
curious
just
to
next week?
see how that goes. Because
Well, how did that even happen? How did two of the biggest summer movies end up on the same weekend after what should have been the biggest summer movie?
I think it's
That's terrible.
the unwavering release dates. But what we're seeing right now, I mean, Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, and Barbie, while all being big summer movies, are all movies that look distinctive and different than what we got last month.
Yeah, that's true.
And draw different audiences. So it could possibly have the Top Gun Maverick effect, where more demographics were brought to theaters. Therefore, other movies that maybe wouldn't have done well if a movie like Maverick didn't come out, like, say, Bullet Train, wasn't a guaranteed hit, but did really well. Elvis did really well. Last summer was a great summer for movies, and now this is going to be the first summer in record that might not have $1 billion movie. The beginning half of this year actually was more encouraging as far as film culture and film what am I trying to say? Film engagement. Like Creed did really, really well, but also got dumped to VOD within 45 days.
45 days, yeah.
Yeah, and same with John Wick Chapter 4. It's we're at this point where people are destined to save their money and skip it, especially if it doesn't look like it's an event that I must see. And that was the issue with Flash and Indiana Jones. I mean, nobody really needed the conclusion to Indiana Jones. He'd already kind of gotten it a couple times.
Yeah. We got two conclusions, right?
And the movie didn't really promise anything that was that interesting, and frankly wasn't marketed that well. I thought it was fine. And then The Flash was positioned to market as a conclusion to the Michael Keaton Batman movies, and also a conclusion to the DCEU, which was a strange marketing choice. And the movie itself really didn't satisfy either of those ends that well, but I found it to be quite engaging. And also, I mean, honestly, The Flash is a success that you can really it's one that you can kind of study and put in a jar for a little bit. But you look at Indiana Jones, you look at The Flash, they're relying on nostalgia and audiences' prior relationships with even like Man of Steel, let alone Batman and all of that. And you look at something like Spider-Man No Way Home or Top Gun Maverick that did insanely well. Spider-Man No Way Home, I would say, for pulling a magic trick that nobody else did and necessitating that you go see the theater. You got Tom Holland on a video saying like, all right, everybody, the spoiler wall is up, you know? And people are like, oh shit, I guess I got to get there. Otherwise I'm going to be spoiled on the internet, and did really well. And Maverick, you know, you could be like 80s nostalgia. I would argue people are more nostalgic for Indiana Jones or Batman than they are for Pete Mitchell. And
All right.
it seemed that movie offered something that those other ones didn't, which is that it looked technically impressive.
100% it did, yeah.
People liked it.
Well, you're both young, beautiful people. I'm just going to ask if it's all right. If someone said, how much time should there be between major event movies? Because I am more irritated than I should be that Barbie has to share space with Oppenheimer. I'm a huge Greta Gerwig fan. I would say, I don't know, 7-10 weeks, then you can put out another event movie. I know kids and my own kids that are like 5 days before the next event movie. Just every 5 days we can have a big event movie. And that's insane, right? Or do I just sound like an old confused man who remembers when Jurassic Park played the whole summer and that was kind of it? Like, these movies are killing each other's chances at success by crowding the summer is what I'm getting at. And
yeah, no, you're not wrong.
is that just not? Is that just a long gone thing and that'll never change? Like, I don't know.
I don't think it's an issue so much with the overcrowding yet. There is a bit of that as far as the issue. I think the biggest issue is that we're kind of just playing the hits right now. And I think audiences are starved for something that feels a little new. I mean,
sure.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and Top Gun Maverick and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 are kind of the things that people latched onto because I guess it dared them to give a shit. Because we're just kind of oversaturated with, like, you know, we had Fast X. Super Mario Brothers movie was another one that it is still the highest grossing movie of this year.
Yeah, over $1 billion.
Over $1 billion, and it is both. Hey, we haven't seen a Mario movie since 1993, but you know, it's also, hey, kids don't really have movies out right now.
Yeah, all my kids loved it unabashedly. They loved every moment of it. I have one kid that has seen it twice. So,
Little Mermaid didn't perform as well as they had hoped with its massive budget.
It was supposed to be $1 billion, like the other live-action Disney films.
Yeah,
a lot of those crossed the $1 billion mark easily within 3 months.
Yeah, that's not to say that. I mean, we're at a state where it sucks that a movie must gross $1 billion to be deemed a
that's
success.
Gross.
And the only directors that can really make original films, like Christopher Nolan, have to at least like maintain a success of that $1 billion note. But this is we're in a really dire state of Hollywood, and nobody's trying anything new because we just feel like we need to just we're like eating our own excrement. A lot of these things feel redundant at this point, like Fast X or Indiana Jones, where it's like, yeah, no, I've seen that type of movie before. What does this have to offer? And it's like, not much, because we've seen that type of movie before.
Yeah.
And studios are in free fall right now. I mean, you could look at Quantum Mania and be like, wow, that movie is the 9th highest grossing movie worldwide this year, but it's also the lowest grossing Ant-Man movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 didn't come nearly as close as Volume 2.
Really? I thought it was kind of similar. I thought
it's right below it. That one is doing fine, but it should have had that plus of the, hey, this is the conclusion of this all. Right now, it's in that 8.
Do either of you two believe it's an actual conclusion, though?
Well, for Guardians, not as a...
That was a cynical question. I apologize.
For Gunn, it is. For Gunn, it was. I mean,
yeah.
So far as we know, he's not coming back to Marvel, but for Gunn, it is. I mean, I think it's... I think it's a situation. A lot of these movies are coming out. It's some of it's COVID stuff of, them delaying it, and then stuff that was supposed to come out before, like The Flash was supposed to come out years ago, and then now it's just like, well, we can't delay this again, and that bumped up the production of marketing and having to release it again, and then same thing like Fast X, where it changed directors, and that kind of got bumped, and Indiana Jones, there was a lot of situations there, and Harrison Ford get hurt.
I just realized, Transformers is another one that that one, it did well, by any big standard worldwide, but it also kind of fell into that any movie with a giant robot is going to do that amount worldwide. Just culturally,
It feels like it should have been a summer event movie and not just, oh, I guess that's playing, you know?
Yeah.
But you look at the things that are more traditional movies, like No Hard Feelings is doing really well. John Wick 4 obviously did pretty well. You know, a lot of horror movies. Scream 6 did well. I mean, we're at this point where I'm curious if both Barbie and Oppenheimer and Dead Reckoning, for all looking so distinctive compared to all the other stuff that's out there, maybe we're going to find ourselves in a good spot. But we'll truthfully, we'll see. I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is going to come out soon. I'm looking at Meg 2. Gran Turismo. We're kind of reaching the end. I mean, I think the Equalizer 3 will do well. Not so sure about Expend 4 Bulls.
Yeah.
Kraven the Hunter could really change things up.
Yeah.
What if a man was a hunter?
I'm gonna do one last story from Bob Iger here, and then I'm gonna head out. We're gonna head out here, but this is just about his comments, speaking about Bob Iger, speaking about talking about Disney, and all the Disney Plus shows. He also gave another comment about the recent actor strike that's kind of going on right now. During an appearance on CNBC Squawk Box on Thursday morning, Disney CEO Bob Iger said that the writers and actors unions going on strike in Hollywood are not being realistic with their expectations. He said it's very disturbing to me. We've talked about disruptive forces on this business and the challenges we're facing, the recovery from COVID, which is ongoing. It's not completely back. This is the worst time in the world to add to that disruption. Iger said, I understand that any labor organization desire to work on behalf of its members to get the most compensation and compensated fairly based on the value that they deliver. We managed as an industry to negotiate a very good deal with the Directors Guild that reflects the value that the directors contribute to this great business. We want to do the same thing with the writers, and we'd like to do the same thing with the actors. There's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic, and they are adding to the set of challenges that this business excuse me, I scroll down, that this business is already facing that is quite frankly very disruptive. Which I would add to that point. Well, that's kind of the point of a protest and a strike, is to be very disruptive. That's kind of the main point of it, to get people to recognize it. But yeah, what do you guys think about the strike kind of going on now? I know Bradley said he lives in great, beautiful Canada. They don't do that over there. But yeah, Nathan, what are some of your thoughts on the writer strike, the actor strike, Iger's comments, if you had any there, if you had any addition there, or anything like that?
Is he still with us?
Oh, maybe he's not. But yeah, I would say, yeah, I mean, it's kind of the
Sorry, my mic was muted. It's I for a second I thought y'all were really shocked by me saying fuck. It's fucked. I mean, we're at this point where we are starting to see the bigger heads like Bob Iger and all these big studios decide, oh, hey, we are deal makers, and here's our deal. Here's what we are going to do. We are going to wait until writers make the decision that they are too broke and have to come back to us. Same with the actors. The actors going on strike may cause more, may cause some level of disruption that is heard. I hope so. But we're just at this standstill, and this creaky point that we are at in the Hollywood system is only going to get more creaky the more we start to do this, unless we're going to start just having AIs write scripts and have reanimated actors play. We'll watch Orson Welles play Galactus or some shit in a standalone movie. You know, who knows? We're at
every movie will look like the ending of The Flash, where it's all these CGI people just coming out and acting in movies, and it'll just
I
all
mean,
look like.
I'm not. I would not be shocked if that was an idea. I mean, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, to get to the beginning of our discussion, was kind of about that. Yeah, where it's just a fucked situation, and I really, there's no solution that I can really see in the forefront of anybody's mind, and everything's going to be held off. And if this summer ends up being cataclysmic, I'm not sure what the state of movies are going to be.
Yeah.
I think artists will always create art, regardless of billionaire CEOs and studios. And really, Bob just sounds like Dana White when Dana White's trying to explain why the biggest MMA corporation in the entire world can't pay fighters a living wage. Like, Dana White, you're full of shit. Stop being full of shit. Pay your employees, and that's it. It's. See, I know that a lot of economists out there and people who understand big capital are like, you're making it too simple, Brad. But if you run the numbers, it really is that simple. And just pay your staff and give them rights and give them health care. Y'all need to get health care. Healthcare has solved so many of these problems in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I'm done ranting.
I mean, we're still at the point where a lot of these old hats are still in charge, and maybe that has something to do with us as a culture. I mean, Bob Iger failed to name his successor, and is now back. I mean, are we ever going to have a president in 2024 who is born after the year 1950? Is this really the last we're going to see of Indiana Jones? Are we going to use an AI version of Indy later on? I mean, Hugh Jackman was dug up to play Wolverine again in a more comic book accurate outfit. I guess we need Elektra played by Jennifer Garner back. I feel cynical about the way this generation currently
I did read
is,
that I did read the Deadpool 3 production has stopped. I don't know if it's because of the writer's strike or if it's in solidarity with it, but I think that's good news. I think the consumer, because when the consumer complains, these heads of corporation are going to say they're complaining because of the writers, but it's their money that's going to go away. So I really think.
I also think it's the SAG strike that really got it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You're absolutely. I agree with that too. I think this is going to go well for SAG and for the WGA. And I think we all just need to ignore the billionaires in the room and focus on living wages should be for everyone. And it shouldn't cause like people who don't even know what it means to want to be this big a crybaby about it. You know, that's all.
And Fran Drescher, who's the president of SAG here, said, I find them terribly. This was a response to the comments by Bob Iger about the strike going on. She says, I find them terribly repugnant and out of touch, positively tone deaf. I don't think it served him well. Drescher said on Friday when asked about Iger's comments, speaking of Variety chief correspondent Elizabeth Wegmeister, Dresser continued, if I were that company, I would lock him behind doors and never let him talk to anybody about this, because it's so obvious that he has no clue as to what is really happening on the ground with hardworking people that don't make anywhere near the salary he is making. High 7 figures, 8 figures. This is crazy money that they make, and they don't care about the land barons. They don't care if they're land barons of a medieval time. Which Bob Iger's salary, I think somebody posted it one time. I think it's pretty. He makes, it says in his previous contract, he was entitled to estimated $27 million per year in total compensation. Yeah. So just a small $27 million. That's it.
Yeah, and that's not getting into all his loophole tax write-offs and
Yeah.
I mean, he made a 27.7 increase from 2021 into 2022. I'm not sure it's going to be the same this year, considering how Disney seems to at this year, I think they've kind of lost the throne for big blockbuster entertainment.
Yeah, because
Especially children's entertainment. Can you?
Yeah.
I don't think I could have ever imagined, even growing up in the 2000s, where a lot of them would flop, Disney ever losing the crown for kids entertainment.
yeah,
I
because
think Shrek took it for a while, not that long, but DreamWorks had more hits. I'd have to go back and actually look at the history, though. So
Well,
yeah.
those minions dancing on both
I
their
can't.
graves.
I can't stand the minions.
They said banana.
I'm expecting. I want to do a good full detailed video about the whole strike kind of going on later on and kind of upload that. But this was a great discussion. Everything about just Bob Iger and his comments. Really, really great talk. So, thank you to Bradley. Thank you to Nathan for joining me there.